All right, I'm Tom Brown, and the talk's Webfinger Reverse Discovery. The slides are available. There's lots of links in the slides for pointers to different websites and standards documents, and so the slides are at otisbergsocial.github.io. Okay, instead of referring to the fediverse, which Webfinger is in that context usually, I'm going to use the expression coined by Darius Kazemi, who maintains a fork of Mastodon, which is the most popular software on the fediverse. His fork is friend.camp. And Darius said, rather than say the fediverse, which just is often not helpful, he calls it community-owned independent social media sites. These are often grassroots sites, sometimes cooperatively owned and governed, and very different compared to corporate media, corporate social media, I should say. And often when you see fediverse or icon for a fediverse, it's a mesh, which is true. But for the purposes of introduction, I like to have this arrangement where the home server, which is where the user is registered and logs into, is in the center. And then there's all of these remote servers the home server communicates with. On the fediverse, servers use the ActivityPub protocol, and Mastodon and others specifically use the server-to-server protocol to communicate with each other. And the idea is the user has a session in the home server. All their user experience happens with this home server, and the home server talks to the remote servers to fetch posts and accounts as it needs to, and it makes local copies of those so that it can present a consistent representation of a user's feed and other things. So over time, the home server builds up a database of all these accounts that are remote and posts, and so that the user can have a consistent representation. So it brings us to Webfinger, and so in the user interface, when you see mentions in a post, you'll see this common format, which kind of looks like an email address, but it has a @ sign preceding it, which is common on the site formerly known as Twitter or even Slack and others. But it's as a software developer who does protocol communication, it's not a useful thing because I cannot query that format. But what I can do something with is the second representation, which is used for internet communication, and that is this account, using account scheme for the URI, and for instance, bob@example.com. And what Webfinger does, it was originally standardized in RFC 7033, and it does protocol translation. It takes URI with an account scheme, and it translates it to a URI with an HTTPS scheme so that one server can make a request and get a JSON response and back. And so that's what we'll be talking about. And people are generally familiar with forward discovery on Webfinger. And this sequence diagram is a simple example of that. And we'll do this one first, and then later we'll do forward and reverse, and it'll be more complicated. But let's do this one first. And you got the user on the top, on the left, and it's with his browser, and a common use case is they search for a Webfinger address like bob@example.com, and they fill that out. They post the bob@example.com to the server, and the server sees if that account is already resides in the database. If it does, it just returns the profile page to the user. User's happy, he found Bob. If it doesn't exist, then what we do is the second branch, which is it makes a Webfinger request. And This discovery happens because there's a convention for a URL to find or to make a request for the Webfinger identifier. And so that path is .well-known/Webfinger, and then you say resource equals, and then that URI with the account. And you say to the remote server, here's the resource I'm looking for, and the remote server comes back and it returns what's called a JSON resource descriptor. And this is a very simple JSON response, and it just returns the actor URI or URL where the server that made the request can look up and get the profile information for Bob at example.com. And then when the server gets that response, they'll create the account and finally give it back to the browser. So let's see what this looks like in Ruby. Novu Mataki, maybe 15 years ago, created the Webfinger gem, Ruby gem. And it's very simple to use. So we just make one call and we say, hey, we're looking for, this is Gargrun. So this is the original creator of Mastodon. We say we want to get Gargrun's profile information. So we call discover on the gem. And then it returned the JSON resource descriptor returns an array of links, and the one that we're interested in is we want the canonical identifier for ActivityPub for the actor, and you find that by finding the entry where rel is equal to self, and that's not defined in the original Webfinger spec, but due to ActivityPub, that convention became adopted. And so that's how we make that translation from the Webfinger identifier to the actor URI, where we can query for the user's information. So that's a simple case, and in my experience, 99.9% of the time, all that's needed is forward discovery, and 0.1% of the time, somebody's got a custom domain where maybe they've got, like I do, a Jekyll blog, and they host their JSON resource descriptor to respond to a Webfinger request. And that actor UI is not on the same domain as the Jekyll blog. It's on a different ActivityPub server. So that's what we're talking about today. So I have this Bob at blog.com. Bob owns domain blog.com. This is the canonical identifier. His website, blog.com, is the authority for Webfinger identifiers that end at blog.com. And there are two problems when he sets this up with a custom domain. And the first one is when a remote server is making a request and only does forward discovery. And if it's not doing reverse discovery, it's going to think that Bob is going to be at remote.com instead of blog.com. And Bob's going to be very unhappy because, at least on that remote server, when he looks at his profile and his posts and everything, they're all going to be associated with Bob at remote.com. And that's not the canonical identifier for Bob, so Bob is unhappy. So that's problem one, is the server making the request does not do reverse discovery. And problem number two is that the server that Bob's is pointing to, when he makes his actor URI that his Webfinger address is pointing to, if that server isn't properly configured to receive a Webfinger request and provide the canonical identifier, then Bob's also out of luck, and it's the same deal. Every fediverse server on the fediverse will think Bob is at remote.com, and so again, Bob is unhappy because his canonical identifier is not being used. So reverse discovery, there's two main documents that should be referenced, and one of them It's by Evan Prodromo, who's one of the authors of the ActivityPub spec. And this is the ActivityPub and Webfinger draft. And that's the most detailed one. And the second one is Mastodon has its own documentation called Requirements for Webfinger. So here's the sequence diagram for reverse discovery. So very similar to the original diagram for just forward discovery. Same use case. Browser makes a search for a Webfinger ID. Who am I using? Bob at blog.com. And the count does not exist. So then the server makes a request to Bob's blog, blog.com. And blog.com returns a JSON resource descriptor, and the server, the home server that made the request, sees that the domain of the URI that's returned is not blog.com, it's remote.com. So it needs to go talk to remote.com. And so it makes a request to that URI that was in the Webfinger response from blog.com, and that URI, the domain's remote.com, and remote.com returns, and this is a JRD, and this is the important thing. Instead of remote.com returning a Webfinger identifier where the domain is remote.com, it's smart enough to know to return Webfinger where it's Bob at blog.com. And so it needs to be specially configured somehow to be smart enough to know that that remote site exists, and that the canonical identifier for the actor URI is not at server.com or remote.com, it's at blog.com. And so here's an example identifier on the web. It's a journalism site at republic.ch, and so that is the canonical identifier. So we'll go through using Novu's Webfinger gem to see what happens, because it is properly configured to return the canonical identifier. So we call discover on republic.ch, and we want to find the link where rel is equal to self. It returns URI, actor URI, which is republic.social, which is different than republic.ch. So we get that actor URL. We ask for application JSON, and then we send a request, and then we get the response, and then reverse discovery. Whereas forward discovery, you're translating from a Webfinger account to a HTTPS URI, and reverse discovery is the complete opposite. You start with a HTTPS URI, and you translate to a Webfinger account. And so what we have is we had this actor URI that we need to come up with the Webfinger representation. The actor URI was at republic.social, and so what we do is we get that domain that's in the actor ID to be the domain component of the Webfinger ID, and then in the response we got back from republic.social for the actor, we look for the preferred username, and so then we concatenate preferred username at the domain from the actor URI, and we use that to construct the Webfinger identifier that we want to make a request to, which is just that remote server republic.social, and then right there, and then we do discovery request, and then the response comes back and it identifies the subject, and it's smart. it gives us the original canonical identifier, which is republic.ch. So somehow republic.social is configured such that it's smart enough to know that, hey, when somebody makes a Webfinger request, don't return republic.social, return the canonical identifier with republic.ch. So how is it doing this? And so the answer is it's doing it with Mastodon, but if you have used Mastodon, there's no form or user interface for you to provide your canonical ID, your Webfinger ID, the domain that you own. And so the question is how is republic.ch doing this? And the option that Mastodon has is that you have to set environment variables, which is not a friendly thing for non-administrators to do, but republic.ch has IT people, they set up the environments, and that's how they have their own domain that's different than the ActivityPub server on Mastodon. So there's a link to how you do that on Mastodon, but it requires setting environment variables. So can I own my own identifier without root access? And there's a couple of ways to do that. The first one is with a super site called Bridgie, which has become real popular because it allows Blue Sky users and Fediverse users to communicate with each other. So if you're on the Fediverse, for instance, and you want to communicate with somebody on Blue Sky, you can make a private message to Bridgie and say, hey, is this person available on the Fediverse? And if they're not, Bridgie will send a note to that user on Blue Sky and say, hey, will you follow Bridgie? And that'll hook up that Blue Sky user with the Fediverse guy who's looking for them. But also on Bridgie, you can, there's two different ways to set it up so that you can use a custom domain. And one of them is web. And so that what that'll do is if you've got a blog, it'll just get your RSS feed and make an account on the Fediverse for you so that your posts are available on the Fediverse, and then your domain will be your canonical domain as desired, and so that's one way to solve the problem. The other way is my proof of concept, otisburg.social. It's a small place. It was originally an indieauth server, but then in January 2004, I added ActivityPub to it, and so so any person can, in theory, go to the site, register, and there's a forum where they can provide their canonical domain, and that way, if they're like me, they have a Jekyll blog, they can point their Webfinger to otisburg.social, and they can have their own domain. And so it comes down, simply comes down to when otisburg.social receives a Webfinger request in the subject, in the response, it just needs to return the canonical identifier, the custom domain, instead of otisburg.social. And so that's a simple thing to do, but it's uncommon. This is CJ, who helped me with the slides. And now I've got 10 minutes for questions. Oh, and January 1st, 2004 was when I migrated my Mastodon.social account to otisburg.social so I could start dogfooding the ActivityPub aspect of it. Oh, did I say 2004? I meant 2024. Thank you for correcting me. Okay, yeah. So a little bit of history. Mastodon in September of 2017 implemented a experimental version of the ActivityPub draft, and that was a great thing for ActivityPub because they were fighting through the standards process in the W3C. And once there was this independent implementation of ActivityPub, it was a great thing for ActivityPub, and that was just super. And then we had Twitter becoming a garbage fire. So there's a migration of users to Mastodon. It was just perfect timing. The thing that's notable about ActivityPub is that it had no corporate participation whatsoever, and that's unusual. Corporations were invited to participate, but they were just not interested at all in participating, and so you had a very unique situation where you had this social web protocol being developed without any corporate participation whatsoever.
Is that just a wrong assumption, or because it seems like your server share connected directly?
Yeah. Oh no, that's a totally good observation that I agree with, because it increases the surface area of attacks. Because now, instead of one blog server, for instance, if you're using Bridgie to bridge from your blog to the fediverse, now you got two representations of yourself instead of one, and so theoretically double the potential vulnerabilities for attack. Certainly, there are security vulnerabilities, for instance, in Mastodon. So I would assume there's security vulnerabilities in Bridgie, less popularized because there's not as many eyes on Bridgie as there are on Mastodon. So yeah, totally possible that you could be impersonated just because you opened yourself up to that. On my software, or?
Yeah, just as a user.
Oh, I haven't thought about that. Yeah, so that's a good question that I don't have a good answer. Oh, that's a good question, because I haven't actually dived into that. I think that if I was doing it, I would just make sure that yeah, I don't know the answer, so I'll not say anything. Any other questions? All right, it looks like we got a big break then.